Hey, welcome to Film versus Movie, the podcast where we debate the cinema you hate. I'm your co-host, Belton DeLaine-Facey.
And my name's Chris Shurr.
And on this podcast, we watch the films that have been slandered, desecrated, and kicked out of the club by public opinion. And one of us tells you why it's actually pretty good.
And the other one's going to tell you why it's a steaming pile of shit.
And today, we have a special guest with us. Please welcome comedian and filmmaker Matt Levy.
Woo!
Happy to be here. I cannot wait to talk about this movie.
Yeah, Matt, would you like to tell the people the movie we'll be discussing today?
It's my all-time favorite film. It is the 1998 classic directed by John Fortenberry, A Night at the Roxbury.
Yes, the film based on a recurring Saturday Night Live sketch with Will Ferrell and Chris Kattan.
What happened to Chris Kattan?
Oh, I can talk about this if you'd like.
There's like part of this in the production history. Okay. I think will tie into this.
Okay, we'll get to it.
But yeah, if you're unfamiliar with the sketch, basically the idea of the sketch, Will Ferrell and Chris Kattan just play these guys that go to nightclubs, bop their head to What Is Love by Hathaway, aggressively hit on women and get rejected.
Yes. It's kind of an update to the Wild and Crazy Guys from the 1970s on SNL with Dan Aykroyd and Steve Martin. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, like watching some of the sketches, it's like, oh, this is a kid-unfriendly version of Johnny Bravo. Yeah.
All right. Well, on to the plot of A Night at the Roxbury. So we start with Steve and Doug Butabi. They are grown rich kids that go to nightclubs all the time, and they just go and get rejected by women and bob their head to What Is Love by Hathaway. And so that's where we see them. And they try to get into a big nightclub called the Roxbury, but they're not on the list, so they don't get in. They stand online until it closes, and that's their whole thing. They want to get into the Roxbury. Now, in the morning, their dad owns a fake plant store that they work at, and they just goof off at work. And Doug, who's played by Chris Kattan, uses credit card transactions to flirt with a credit approval associate over the phone.
Yes.
Which is just like an absurd 90s thing to put in this movie. Like
it works.
Yeah, it works because like having never seen one of those machines in my adult life, like that just seems like an insane thing to do.
Wait, so you're telling me after they do a credit card transaction, they'd have to call someone up every single time to see if it went through?
You definitely didn't have to do that. I feel like he did that.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Just to get in touch with this woman.
The credit vixen.
Yeah, the credit vixen, as she is known as in this movie.
She's so good.
Yeah. So their dad wants Steve to marry Emily, the daughter of the guy who owns the lamp store next door. So that way they can merge businesses and become like the first fake plant lamp store, which I still don't understand why them getting married is necessary for that.
It's the merging of the two families.
Yeah, but this isn't
it's symbolic, man.
This isn't the feudal age. You don't need to like marry your kids to unite the kingdoms. You can just have a business merge.
Okay. Also, well, if we're gonna like poke holes in it, why did someone who sells fake plants be able to afford a mansion in Beverly Hills?
I mean, the whole movie is ludicrous. You can't take it seriously, Belton. I know, it's the funniest comedy.
I know. No, that I mean, it just makes me think the two dads got together and like they fully discussed this plan to like merge businesses, but then one of them was just like, "But we can't just do it ourselves, or else it looks gay." And
it's got to be our daughter and our son.
Yeah, like that. Like their kids are just their excuse to live out their dreams.
Right, and neither is qualified to take over in any way.
Well, and then I love Emily was just like, we're going to do so much more from there. Like the plant lamp store is the jumping off point to being a billionaire.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, like up until that point, I mean, no, this is going to get into points I have later. Let's just move on with the plot. All right. So Steve and Doug decide that night is the night they are getting into Roxbury no matter what. So after failing to bribe the bouncer with what they had, which according to IMDb totaled to $8.25, they're searching for an ATM for more money, and then they get rear-ended by star of 21 Jump Street the series, Richard Grieco. Richard Grieco. And to avoid a lawsuit or get in trouble for his car, he gets them into Roxbury. There they meet the owner, Benny Zadir, and they pitch him their own idea for a nightclub, and he agrees to a meeting.
I can't stop laughing because it's so funny. It's such a good story.
It's like, I know there's, if you ever looked up the Pixar rules of storytelling, they have one that's like, you get one coincidence. After that, every coincidence can only be a problem, not a solution. This just rode that one coincidence like all the way down the track.
Fair. But there's so many laughs, man. You can't be mad.
All right, on to the plot. So they continue to party with Zadir all night. Two women thinking that they're rich because they're with Zadir sleep with them. So both of them now believe they're in serious relationships, and they. And they annoy his bodyguard so much that when they show up for the meeting, he tells them, "Oh, Zadir was too drunk to even remember you guys. There is no meeting." And so
that was Colin Quinn too.
Yeah, Colin Quinn, a lot of SNL alum.
May I chime in here for 1 sec?
Oh yeah.
So I did read the original shooting script of the film a while back, and there is a joke that didn't make the cut, and it's from this very scene you're describing. So I apologize for interrupting, but I feel like the world needs to know. I think I've brought it up on other podcasts, but there in this scene, Steve Butabi, played brilliantly by Will Ferrell, asked for whipped cream so they can basically do whippets in the back of the limo. But in the original shooting script, he said, "Hey, can we get potato chips? You know, chips made out of potato." Which I think is the dumbest line ever written, and it's so good.
I mean, it works with their character. Also, that's one thing I noticed. It's like they refrain to directly referencing drugs when it totally fit. Like whipped cream, it felt like it was in place of whippets. Also, they kept doing this thing where they rub their nose like they just did cocaine, but they never show them doing cocaine.
Yeah, I kind of figured that they just like understood the culture enough to know that that's what people in clubs do, but then like couldn't actually back up the knowledge that it's cocaine related.
Yeah,
that is spot on.
Yeah, that would actually make a lot of sense for their characters. All right, so the two women leave them once they realize they're not actually rich. And after a big fight between them, Doug moves out of their shared bedroom, which they both still share a bedroom at their parents' place. Doug just moves to the pool house. He doesn't move out.
Come on, Belton. This is a masterpiece, right?
Just
so good.
Literally every aspect, once you say it out loud, sounds like the dumbest thing ever.
I know. It's so funny.
Look, you could do the same thing with like Hot Rod or like Pop Star.
Oh yeah, no, I understand because like I love Edgar Wright movies. If you describe any Edgar Wright movie, it sounds so dumb. Like
yeah, it's all style, but this movie is an underappreciated, underrated masterpiece.
Yeah. Okay. So after Doug moves out, Steve is forced into an engagement with Emily, but Doug stops the wedding right before they say "I do." He reconciles with Steve. Then they find a new nightclub that's their exact idea they pitched to Zadir. They go in, find out Zadir built it and made them part owners. And while inside, Doug meets his credit vixen, and Steve meets a cop he flirted with at the beginning of the movie, and happily ever after.
Honestly, you did a beautiful job summarizing the movie. I think you hit every plot point beautifully. And if anyone who has not seen the movie heard that, I think they'd want to see it right away.
Yeah, that's.
I think you sold anybody.
Yeah, this definitely feels like a movie that came together like just pitching jokes in a writer's room.
Yeah, I like any of the interactions that. Which one's Will Ferrell? I'm blanking for a second. Steve has with his dad after getting engaged. Where he's like, I just fucking hate her. And he's like, yeah, that's normal. He's like, that's like standard.
I want to ram a toothbrush up her nose. Oh, man. The movie is just chock full of jokes. Like, one of my favorite throwaway gags is early in the movie when they're just waiting in line for the club. And I think Farrell's in the background cradling a box of goldfish, waiting to go in. Just, he knows he's going to be waiting for hours.
Yeah, I noticed he was just
eating snacks.
Yeah, he was just eating stuff on that line. Like every shot, he was eating something different.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And we didn't even talk about the trainer.
Oh yeah,
is so funny.
Oh yeah, their trainer, like what? So Emily just has the hots for Steve the entire movie. The trainer has the hots for Emily, but nothing comes until the end when Steve leaves Emily at the altar. The trainer steps in. It's just like, hey, I could marry you right now. I'm ready.
Dude, the priest in that scene is so funny where he just keeps chiming in, where the trainer's just like, I bench press 330. I'm 6'4". I can bicep roll 75. And the priest is like, that's all really good.
Oh my God. I love when they meet the trainer earlier in the film, when he gets really serious with the guys about how their workouts aren't going quite as they should. And then at the end, he says, are we still best friends, guys? And they said, since all 7 years of high school. Just every joke is perfect.
Yeah. All right. So as mentioned before, this is based on a recurring Saturday Night Live sketch that where Will Ferrell and Chris Kattan's characters originated from. This movie was filmed in 1997 between seasons 22 and 23 of Saturday Night Live. And so a lot of the rest I'm about to say is just going to sound like gossip, because this movie marked the end of Will Ferrell and Chris Kattan's friendship, which they were friends before joining SNL. So it was long standing. After production wrapped on this, they didn't talk until the new season of SNL. And they kept things professional, and they haven't talked since Will Ferrell left SNL. Now,
wow, I did not know.
Yeah, so reportedly, a lot of this surrounds Amy Heckerling, who is a writer and director in Hollywood. She directed Fast Times at Ridgemont High and wrote the script to Clueless. So in his 2019 memoir, Chris Kattan claimed Lorne Michaels pressured him to sleep with her so that she direct the movie. She did not direct the movie. She ended up as a producer. And when asked about this, in an interview with the Daily Beast, Heckerling simply said he's a nut. You know, I don't comment about that because basically I have no interest in helping his book sales. I don't even want to know or hear the dumb shit he came up with.
Poor Catan, man. Even when he's a victim, people shit on him.
Yeah. And so actually, Heckerling's daughter, Molly Israel, when the book came out, she made a post on Instagram claiming that they became close during production, but their affair only started when they were well into production. So basically claiming like he didn't sleep with her to get her to direct the movie. The movie was already happening when everything started.
Oh, so they did actually hook up.
Yeah. Yes. So, but according to Catan, after that incident, like Will Ferrell judged him for it, lost some respect for him, and so after that, their relationship was strictly professional until they were no longer castmates.
Damn.
Okay.
That's so sad.
Yeah. But do you know what he's doing now, like 2024? Has he been getting work or?
Yeah. So he does stand up now.
Oh, okay.
And I saw him do stand up with John Lovitz and Tim Meadows, I want to say in like 2012 in Arizona. He was fine. I mean, it's 12 years later. I hope he's better now. It wasn't mind blowing. He did like some of his characters, like the Mango, which you guys may recall from back in the day. But I think he got injured. That's also in his memoir.
Yeah, he claims he claims his injury came from something on something on Saturday Night Live.
He had a fall and like broke his spine or something.
Yeah. Ooh. Oh yeah, because I did read he was on a season of Dancing with the Stars and he got a lot of comments about how stiff he was, and then he wrote in his memoirs just like, yeah, I was stiff because I was still dealing with that back injury, which seems like does also seem like a retroactive way to just be like, fuck you, judges, you insulted a disabled guy.
Well, I hate that he's become a punchline because he's so funny. Like, you guys saw Nope, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember the scene with the monkey?
Yeah.
Where the monkey attacks
the
sitcom set.
I don't think you can forget that scene.
Right. That's the most memorable part of the movie. After the fact, when Steven Yeun's talking about it, he said SNL did a parody of it and Chris Kattan played the monkey. So Chris Kattan lives on in pop culture as like this weird punchline, but I think we've forgotten, I mean, especially in Night at the Roxbury, he's funny as hell. He's so good. He's like this conniving, weird little brother who's dead set on starting a club with his dumb older brother who's got the looks and he's the brains in his mind. Like, it's just such a strange role and he knocks it out of the park. Like, I'm so bummed that this movie wasn't a huge hit because I think it's just as funny, if not funnier than Wayne's World, which might be blasphemy.
Ooh. All right. Well, this movie did come out October 8th, 1998. On a budget of $17 million, it only made $30.3 million. It currently stands at 11% on Rotten Tomatoes and 6.1 out of 10 on IMDb. So pretty high for this show.
The 11%.
Well, the 6.1. The 6.1. The 11% is more standard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's better than It's Pat for sure. I don't know if you guys remember that one, but I believe that sits at a 0%.
We were going to do that for Women's History Month. I think that was one of the movies we were tossing around.
Look, I've never seen like the movie or the sketch for It's Pat. I just once had a manager who's Italian, and apparently like that's one of the few SNL sketches he's ever seen. So every so often he would just be like, da, 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 it's Pat. and like and nobody knew what he was referencing for a while.
That's so funny. It's Pat is very bad. I can't defend that one. I'm sorry. I've seen, I think, all of the SNL movies. I'd say Night at the Roxbury is the gold standard, even above like Blues Brothers and Wayne's World. But It's Pat is indefensible. Good luck to either one of you that has to stand up for it.
Yeah. Belton has this way of defending things. He essentially like gaslights me into agreeing with him. He'll be like, well, look, I think like efforts sometimes need to be defined a different way.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, just like quality is subjective, and they did their best. All right,
you want to get this started?
Now it's time for our opening statements. Chris will be defending this film. I will be attacking.
All right, I'll start it off. Night at the Roxbury is a classic comedy about two people who desperately blow past every possible opportunity for growth, only to accidentally get on the right path before stepping right off at the end and still having everything work out. It's not a spectacular film, but it's funny and it will keep you watching through the entirety of it.
All right. This movie ended the friendship of two of SNL's biggest stars at the time, and watching it could convince you it all had to do with collective shame. Two characters whose biggest joke is sexual harassment get a movie where the biggest joke is on you for spending money on it. This film does nothing but waste the talents of everyone involved, as it can't even develop its main characters into people worth following. So,
wow.
So Matt, do you have initial thoughts?
Well, I think Chris's heart is in the right place. I agree 100% with that assessment. Like, these characters are lovable. Their sexual harassment that you've accused them of, I think, is mostly in the sketch. In the movie, I want to think about it, but clearly before I say something that could potentially be bad. But I think they always mean well, even if they do a lot of catcalling in retrospect. There's a lot of times at the beach where they'll say, "What's up, potty? What's up, potty?" Which is admittedly very funny because it's just so shallow. But yeah, with a 2024 lens, maybe that doesn't hold up. But it is so funny and so absurd, and the characters are so lived in. Like, I believe that they are Dan Hedaya and Lonnie Anderson's children that grew up in this mansion, putting Twizzlers in each other's noses to wake each other up. Like, I believe everything about this world, and I believe the history with the plant lamp store. I believe that they just come home and the family's singing the Cheers theme song on a piano. I love the pool house. I mean, everything about this movie is so good. When at the Dark Night of the Soul, when Everybody Hurts plays, I'm laughing and I'm crying with them. I mean, you can hate this movie all you want and say that it ruined a friendship and there's a collective shame cloud surrounding it. But I think that Farrell and Catan should be incredibly proud of this film. It is a high watermark for just comedy film in general.
Okay. I'm gonna.
I feel like every time I say something, Belton's like, "Dude, you're crazy."
It's like, all right, I'm gonna start off with my first criticism, and that is just like the overall plot and story. Literally everything after the party at Mr. Zadier's house, ends up being inconsequential. Like their meeting gets canceled. That ends up not mattering. They have a fight. Is like they reconcile, but they don't talk over like issues they actually have.
Look, I'm just gonna counter this a little bit. I think you're not wrong necessarily, but I think that the 90s was a little too early for this film. Because if you look at Step Brothers kind of does the exact same thing. where
yes,
they're having progress. He gets the job, and then at the end they blow it all up. Nothing matters, and they just end up going right back. That's what I was trying to get at the very beginning in my intro, where it's like they are broken people with zero growth who ignore every possibility of growth, who fall into the right line by chance just to get off the tracks.
It's not their fault either. Their parents coddled them so much.
Oh yeah, they are spoiled rich kids.
They're so spoiled, filthy. They're living at home in their like late 20s and sharing a bedroom, which is hysterical. Yeah. Like it's the ultimate Arrested Development. It's brilliant.
Okay,
it's like a commentary on the rich, man.
Yeah. Okay. Well, like going back to the Step Brothers example, the problem with like both of them in that movie is neither one of them wanted to actually take up responsibility for everything and like over the course of the movie, they reach a point where both of them have to step in, and so the movie ends with them being more responsible and able to take care of themselves. In this movie, both the characters have flaws, even in their like dynamic as brothers. Like Chris Kattan's character is more controlling. Will Ferrell's character is like a pushover, and so they both have flaws to overcome. Just neither one of them really makes a change to overcome them. So so at the end, they are like left in a better spot due to none of their own actions, though.
Right. They live a blessed life, man. Everything works out. But I mean, I think they both have a bit of growth because Steve has his relationship with Emily, and he realizes what he really wants, which is to be with his brother Doug, and not necessarily in like a fully adult relationship. Like he realizes he wants to be a kid that lives at home, and if there's a hottie cop that he can shake it with, so be it. But his dream is to just continue this like adolescence, and the fact that Mr. Zadir created a club without, mentioning it to him, maybe because Colin Quinn's character Dewey prevented the conversation from happening. So be it. But I mean, Doug, who yes, is controlling, he has a vision the whole time. I mean, you could call that a flaw, but you could also call that a strength, Belton. Like, he had a dream. He wanted to see a club that looked like the outside on the inside, and the inside looked like the outside. Like the fact that you're taking this movie seriously is the greatest joke of all. Like it is the dumbest movie with the fucking coolest soundtrack of all time. Like the fact that anyone doesn't like this movie, and like I was just going back, I wrote an essay about it in 2021 about all the critics that hated it. And like people would just call it crap and write it off. But I think that was just part of the trend of SNL movies that came out right after, in the wake of Wayne's World. There was, I think, It's Pat, what we already just discussed.
Didn't they make a Coneheads movie or something?
Yep. I forgot about that. Good call. Coneheads came right after. Wayne's World 2, which admittedly was not great. And then Stuart Saves His Family with Al Franken playing his Stuart Smalley character, which is honestly pretty good. It's like a quiet little dramedy. And then this. So this is like, a barrage on these critics who have just seen like 5 in 5 years. And then The Ladies' Man comes next. And then, Superstar comes next, and The Ladies' Man. And then there's a break for 10 years until we get to MacGruber.
Yeah.
But, now also some say Office Space is also an SNL film because the Milton character originated on SNL. But, I mean, for a good decade, SNL movies were as common as Marvel films almost. Like they were just nonstop. And I think critics had reached a point where they just said, I'm done. I've seen this. They stretch thin premises into 90-minute concepts, and they're not wrong, except for this one. I think this is one of the most inspired comedies of all time. Still to this day, like on par with Austin Powers and all the greats from the 90s.
Well, yeah. Also, I would like to point out the concept is so thin. This movie didn't even stretch to 90 minutes. It was 81 minutes.
Perfect film.
Yeah. Like, I was like, every time I go into a movie of this podcast, I'm just like, dude, if this movie sucks, I'm going to be stuck here doing this for 2 hours or so. Yeah. And so I log in, I was just like, oh yeah, hour 22. This isn't bad.
Not bad at all.
So I know you just brought up Emily. One thing I didn't understand, like their whole thing was they just kept hitting on women all night. Like at the beginning, you had this one woman practically throwing herself at one of them. At that point in the movie, there is no reason for us as the audience to understand like what's wrong with her, or like they kind of seem repulsed by her.
Well, she was like normal versus like exactly they wanted hot women versus just women. I thought the same exact thing. Like
they're children. They are stunted man children who have no idea how the world works in any way.
I was cracking up when they're talking to her, and then Chris Kattan is in the background just spiking potted plants into the back of the van.
The fact that the dad has not completely disowned them is beyond me.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, yeah, it's like also their relationship with their mom is definitely like the predecessor to incest porn.
For sure. Poor Lonnie Anderson. She's so sweet to them too.
Yeah, like she keeps interacting with them like they aren't just like they aren't just her sons calling her hot and sexy, completely unprompted.
If you're gonna peek, do it in your bedroom. There's just so many great lines, but yeah, she is the real reason for their stunted growth for sure. She makes sure that they get everything they need. Doesn't want them to probably ever leave the house. She loves her boys. I mean, in a way, is she the hero or the villain of the film? I've never even thought about that.
Yeah, and I think that's also one thing where it's like I already mentioned, like this movie feels like it was just put together as in a writer's room pitching jokes, and I feel like we could have used more screen time with her mom. She has her moments, but it's like they spend so much time with their dad, and it feels like their mom could be even a more important relationship, because like it's just kind of implied she calls them. I think they could have gotten a lot more humor out of her like physically calling them a lot more.
Damn, I totally agree with that. I'd want another 15 minutes of that. Just the mom totally nestling them and treating them like infants basically would be so good.
I was cracking up at the scene where they're paging the two women. And she was just like, I got a page. And she's like, what is it? And she was like, just a bunch of pound keys. And he's just like, yeah, you got to hit the pound key. And he's just like, do.
Oh, man. I mean, if we want to just do jokes from the movie, I'm down to do that. One of my all-time favorites is when he says, are you free next week? And then he takes his calendar out of the plastic and opens it to next week, and he says, I'm free. Brilliant. And then I think they talk about, they see a hottie in an elevator right after meeting their new girlfriend. And he says, Hottie wanted to shake it or something to that effect. And I believe Chris Kattan says, why get burgers when you got steak at home? And Farrell completely misses the message. And he says, that's right, I am hungry. I mean, that's just Homer Simpson level good.
Yeah, and it's like, it's one of those things where it's like watching this movie also does make me sad finding out like Will Ferrell and Chris Kattan's friendship ended after this, because like
they're so good together.
Yeah, because I also imagine like back when Will Ferrell had his era with Adam McKay, I feel like Chris Kattan would fit right in there.
Oh man, like in Anchorman, absolutely. Like maybe as one of the villain rival anchors, totally.
Yeah, because I feel like especially in stuff like Anchorman or Talladega Nights, where Will Ferrell just plays like a really cocky, arrogant character, it's like Chris Kattan could like straight up challenge him in that aspect.
100%, and he's so small too. Like the fact that he's so like annoying is perfect, because like Ferrell's like this big dumb oaf, and he's this conniving little kind of squat guy. They're perfectly diametrically opposed physical types, and also like different character attitudes. I couldn't agree more. I wish there was a universe in which Chris Kattan was in all the Adam McKay movies.
Oh yeah, because I mean, like I'm thinking about like Sacha Baron Cohen's character in Talladega Nights. Like I could see Chris Kattan playing that role.
Agreed. Although Sacha Baron Cohen's great.
Yeah,
he killed it.
Oh yeah, no, it would be very different than what Sacha Baron Cohen did. But like I could see Chris Kattan playing like that character type within the film.
Absolutely.
Well, didn't Will Ferrell also had like a falling out with Adam McKay too?
Yeah.
Where he wanted to be on Good Time, and then Adam McKay ended up giving it to John C. Reilly. And so now Winning Time, my bad.
Yeah. I would like to see Will Ferrell in Good Time, the Safdie brothers movie. That would be great.
Never saw that one.
Oh, you're in for a treat.
Oh yeah, no, that was the one where when Robert Pattinson got cast as Batman, people were complaining like, "Oh, you put the Twilight Boy in there." People were pointing to that movie. It's like, no, they put this guy in there.
Yeah, no, he's great in that movie, as are the Safdies. But if Will Ferrell was in that movie, that'd be tight. I mean, did you guys see? Totally unrelated, but the recent Will Ferrell doc, Will and Harper?
No, I haven't gotten around to that.
Oh, it's amazing. It's Ferrell at his most vulnerable I've seen him yet. It's really great. He goes on the road with Harper Steele, who is a former SNL writer who just transitioned. And they go across the country, and she deals with all the prejudices of the South, and Ferrell is just there to support her. And it's kind of just a beautiful portrait of friendship, and occasionally very funny, but also pretty moving. And at times you're just like, Jesus Christ, this is so nice to just see two adult friends hang out so much. They're great together. It's just a road trip film. And by the end, you're like, man, I wish this was 2 hours longer too. I hope Ferrell doesn't have a falling out with that friend as well, since he's had so many falling outs. I don't know how many friends he has left, because he seems like such a nice guy.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I need to see another movie before I see that one. I already got like tell everyone to watch The Wild Robot because it made me cry. So like I have to accept the loss with honor. So,
yeah, fair.
But yeah, back to Night at the Roxbury. Like, I guess with like their whole family dynamics. Like I understand. Like they wanted like. They did a good job of like making the two brothers just separate from the rest of their family at the beginning, but it's like they also offer like no resolution to that. We don't know how like their family really changed after that. How if it just went back to normal, because they like disrupted what is to their dad a giant business deal by calling off the wedding. And I feel like there would be fallout for that.
No. Richard Grieco smoothed it over. He had a
That
whole
is right.
talk with the dad. And so
Thank you.
all of that is out the door because the dad's actually going to get a lot closer to his son now.
So once again, stuff happens that the two main characters did not do themselves. Like Richard,
Dude, they have charmed lives, man.
Richard Grieco should have been like a cameo in this movie. Why was he even at their wedding?
That is what's so funny about this movie. That very question. You just answered why. It's a great gag.
Well, you didn't want to get sued.
I mean, that too. Yeah, that's actually a better answer than it's a great gag. Like, yeah, Richard Grieco's character is just there because he wants to maintain this illusion of friendship.
Okay,
he was driving an illegal car.
Yeah,
okay.
I understand that, but it's like again that's another thing where it's like if they're gonna like they essentially just use that one gag twice, and it's like you could have used it at other times. Like you could have just had it be at some point they're like, yeah, anytime we call Richard Grieco for something, he just picks up and does it for us. He's such a good friend. Like there's a lot of stuff that they could just like lean further into, but like I essentially just feel like the script should have cooked a bit more.
Fair. It sounds like you, as a person that didn't like this movie, wanted more Roxbury. I just like the idea of Will Ferrell's character writing an invitation to Richard Grieco and Richard Grieco receiving it and being like, I have to go to this wedding. Like, I wish that was in the movie. You're right. I mean, there could be so much more.
Yeah, or something like Richard Grieco thinks like they're holding this over him, which is why they keep asking him to do stuff. So like at the end, he's like, "Can you just like let me out of my debt or accept a check?" And they're like, "Check for what?"
Yeah, they don't even know that he's there. They have no idea he's worried about their necks or injuries in any way. Like they're totally oblivious to everything, man.
Yeah, like again, if you're gonna like have a plot that isn't fully there, I want all the jokes to go to the extreme that they can.
Fair, and I think the movie does mostly deliver on that. But if we go back to the very beginning, when you were laying out the story, the characters clearly have wants, which is, I think, the foundation for any good screenplay. The dad has a want; he wants to merge with the lamp store next door. Steve and Doug just want to own a club. They just want to get into the Roxbury. Like nothing is confusing or convoluted about this script. Like it's just a straightforward save the cat 3-act story with, high highs, low lows. And at the end, like in a great Shakespearean comedy, everyone ends up together and everyone's happy. It follows the formula to a T. I just think that what they do in the margins is what makes it so special. And I really don't I think if you don't like this movie, you don't like joy. You don't like overprivileged joy, privileged joy.
I can't even say that's not a real argument because I've definitely said something in a similar vein on this podcast before.
You don't like joy.
I think that was my entire argument in defense of Cats.
I actually haven't seen Cats in its entirety.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my entire thing was it's not bad. You just lack whimsy.
Honestly, looking back on Cats, we chose Cats. We're like, yeah, this movie fucking sucks. Like, big, we're gonna come out strong. And like looking back on it, I'm like, Solid movie. It like wasn't that bad. People just, it became a meme, so everyone lost their fucking minds about it. But
yeah, that's what happens with stuff like this, though. Like, I think there becomes a critical mass where everyone hates it, so everyone views it through that lens. I think once a kind of like dominant thought is accepted in society, everybody writes stuff off. Or the opposite. I'm going to sound like a hater here. Everyone went into Oppenheimer last year thinking like, oh man, this is a really important, prestigious film. I thought it was really boring and not important and kind of dumb. I think just people view movies through whatever the main argument is about it that already exists. So people will go into Night at the Roxbury hearing it sucked, or Cats hearing it sucked, and they'll be like, yeah, I reinforce that belief, without actually just being like, whoa, that actually is really good, and kind of forming an opinion for themselves.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I think it's time for us to get to our concessions.
I'm getting serious here.
Yeah. So this is time for our concessions. This is where I give 3 things I liked about the movie, and Chris gives 3 things she didn't like. So first thing I did like, Will Ferrell and Chris Kattan's chemistry. They play off each other really well. It's like they embody the characters in a way I feel can be tricky to do, because like the characters, if you watch the SNL sketch, the point is both of those guys feel like the same person in different bodies, and they bring that embodiment to the movie, but still also like play them differently so that they are their own people, and you believe like they grew up together and just have distinct personalities under like their attire.
Couldn't agree more. Great point.
I think it kind of drags in spots.
Oh.
I think there's like parts where the comedy does most of the heavy lifting in terms of like being entertained. And then there are parts where it's just kind of like slow and not great. I honestly,
some specifics.
I wasn't the biggest fan of the opening. Like I liked once they got into Lion at the Roxbury, but the whole like they're at the club and they're just harassing. I guess I'd never seen the sketch, so it didn't really play with me.
I can see that.
I think the whole when they're fighting goes on a little too long. There's different points where I kind of like quit paying attention because it wasn't necessarily the funniest part. And then when the comedy dropped off, everything else was just.
Yeah, I feel like that opening sequence, it was a matter of like a lot of that was kind of the embodiment of the sketch. So it does feel like the fan service where they were just went, okay, this is the part we need to get out the way, so let's just do it here.
Yeah, they needed to do the head movement. They needed to dance like idiots. You're totally right.
Yeah, they just needed to aggressively hump unsuspecting women.
Yeah, no, that's not cool. I will concede that.
All right. Next thing, I will say I liked a lot of like the costuming and hair design. Like with Will Ferrell and Chris Kattan's characters, there are very few characters that you can look at and just smell through the screen. Like they smell like not cheap cologne, but I feel like they easily could have done a gag where it's like they mix different expensive colognes and layer it. It's like, this cologne is for my shirt, this cologne is for my jacket. Like,
yeah,
yeah, and then also like a detail I liked about their dad is that he always wore these button-up shirts that were buttoned down so that you could see his white chest hair, which really just emphasized how much dye he put in his hair.
Yeah.
I also think the sets were great. Like the Roxbury looks like the Roxbury, the biker bar with all the goth women look pretty cool. The club they end up at the very end was really cool. The mansion, like big mansion, I guess they just rented out a mansion. But nonetheless, like I think the set was really well done.
Yeah, because I mean, with the final club at the end with Chris Kattan's character saying like, "Oh, it's a club where the inside's on the outside and the outside's on the inside." It's such an absurd concept that they made work visually.
Yeah, it rules.
Oh yeah. I think for a movie this, I just like, I think that I don't know. I know it's the sketch, but like that emo goth biker bar was cool as hell. And the fact that it was kind of pitched as not the place to be was a little shocking.
Yeah. Agreed. I never really thought about that, but yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, I don't know.
Belton, did you actually really like this movie? And you just have to be a hater just for the concept?
Well, yeah, if no one's a hater, the podcast doesn't work.
Yeah, I know, but deep down, did you really enjoy it?
Oh yeah, no, I definitely enjoyed a lot of it. I do think like I said, it has areas where it could be better.
Would you give it like a B- or something?
Like C plus B minus. Like,
Chris, where do you stand?
Yeah, like 78 to 81%.
All right.
Definitely not 11. 11 is pretty. It's not an 11%. We've watched 11%.
Yeah.
What is your guys' all-time favorite studio comedy?
I'm really tempted to go with like Step Brothers or Talladega Nights. I just grew up watching a lot of Adam McKay.
Hot Rod.
Great answers. All phenomenal movies. So you guys have similar sensibilities to this movie. And neither of you had seen it before?
No.
I had tried to watch it like 3 separate times and I never really could get through it.
Yeah.
But you couldn't make it to the 81-minute mark?
No. I'm pretty sure I would watch the intro and just be like, I'm not that interested in this.
Fair enough.
Yeah. All right. My final concession. I do think, given that they had just to build off of a single sketch, they did a good job. Like it kind of building the world around what these characters already were, and it was kind of like an open writing prompt that they went wild with it. But like you said earlier, a lot of the world felt consistent. It felt like, oh, this is definitely a place these two guys belong in.
I'm on board with that. Anything you say positive about the movie?
I mean, last one, they're all caricatures, which like works great for a sketch. I don't know how successful they were in turning them into characters. Like they're funny and that's caricature stuff, but like I didn't really care that much about, like, I don't know how much they're actually fleshed out, and that's fine. But I kind of think that's where some of the worst parts of the movies were.
They are a little dense. I mean, when I say they, I mean Will Ferrell's character is definitely a little stupid. But I think when we hear about them being in high school for 7 years and see that their mom coddled them, we understand why Ferrell's character is the way he is, because he's had it so good and so easy, and he thinks he's good looking, and it's repeated to him over and over throughout the movie, because you're good looking, extremely good looking. Like he just has this mind where he's invincible and everything's handed to him on a silver platter. So yeah, he is one dimensional. I give that to you, but I think the world that he lives in expects that of this Ferrell character. Whereas the Kattan character, I think, has a little bit of 3-dimensionality, where he's got this chip on his shoulder and he has to like really navigate, and he can be sweet like he is with the credit card vixen, but he can also be kind of shrewd and cunning and emotional and sensitive when he moves to the pool house across the way. Like, it's just a perfect film, man. I'm not going to change my position.
Yeah, see, I didn't see any of Catan's, like everything that you saw in Catan's character, I just kind of more saw it as the flat character that didn't evolve that much from the sketch. But that's a matter of opinion. So
yeah, to each their own.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, now it's time for our closing statements.
You going? Or?
Yeah, I can go first. A Night at the Roxbury took an SNL sketch with no depth or meaning and simply padded the runtime. It throws in a lot of elements that don't come together as a cohesive story. The most impressive thing about this film is it warps time to be the longest 80-minute film of all time.
Damn.
Night at the Roxbury is a solid B-level comedy. It isn't great, but you'll laugh and have a decent time. There's some great nuggets of jokes backed by a great soundtrack, and it's short enough that you don't have to wait very long for something interesting to happen.
All right. Matt, do you have any final thoughts you would like to add?
I was like, Amelia. My heart's like, boo. Boo. I mean, there's so many jokes in this movie. The fact that anyone could go in and be sour about it is beyond insane to me. It's so much fun. It has an insane rewatch factor. I don't like rewatching movies. I hate rewatching movies because there's so many movies to see. Like, it's just exciting to me to see something I've never seen. But I will always go back to Night at the Roxbury. It's not Get Out with, Easter eggs. It's not Pulp Fiction with storytelling gambits that are going to blow your mind. It's not an Oscar film. It's not Step Brothers. It's not Anchorman. It's not Zoolander, which are all pretty tonally similar. But it is, maybe I just saw it at the right age. I was like 11. It's perfect to me. It's so funny. And yeah, it has its flaws with how it depicts women. But it's just like a parody of Saturday Night Fever turned completely on its head.
So that's what it was. That was my first thought when they're headed into work. I was like, oh, okay, I guess this thing's kind of a parody of Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah. It's dumb as hell. You're not wrong, but it is so fun, so stupid. You can watch it with anybody. And if they don't like it, I mean, that's on them. They just don't have a good sense of humor.
I also find it funny you mentioned first seeing it when you were 11, because I always tell people that the golden age of SNL is just whenever you were in middle school.
It's true. Yeah, Lorne Michaels always says your favorite cast is whoever was on the show when you were in high school. But middle school for sure, too.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing one of your favorite films with us. Where can people follow you?
Follow me to the theater while I will be watching Night at the Roxbury again. I guess if you want, you can find me on Instagram at very SNL nerd handle, Matterday with an M at the top. _night_Levy. Matterday Night Levy. Yeah, I'm that annoying guy. I love the show so much. But I really love Roxbury, maybe even more than the show.
All right. Well, thank you again for coming on. And this has been another episode of Film versus Movie. We will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.